In my video on buckets and eels, I made a bold statement. I said, of course there is an objective reality. It's an interesting statement. Is it a justifiable statement? Yes, it is. Because if you think about reality, what is the word reality used for? Well, we use it commonly, or certainly I use it commonly, to denote the totality of what is real, the totality of that which exists. And therefore, trivially, it is a useful word. I mean, there is something that exists that is trivially true, and therefore reality does stand for something. But what do I mean by objective? Do I mean that it is objectively knowable? No, I don't. What I mean by objective is that we can objectively state that reality is a sensible term to use, that we can use the word reality, because it really means something. It means that which exists. Well then, coming back to the knowable bit, is it actually possible to know anything about reality? Can we make any statements about reality that are factual? Yes, again, I would say yes, we can. The example I used in a comment I made to Willard20 in my previous video, I asked him whether he had seen the film, Michael Moore's film, Bowling for Columbine. And he responded, probably quite puzzled, saying, yes, I've seen that film. And probably thinking, why are you asking? Well, that shows you something about reality. It shows you that in reality there is a person named Michael Moore, and in reality they did make a movie. And the fact that he and I have both seen that movie attests to the fact that those things are real. Michael Moore is a real person, the movie Bowling for Columbine is a real movie, and it was made by Michael Moore. Those are undeniable facts. Now you could of course argue that we don't know the nature of our reality. That's fine, I agree with that. We could, for example, just a wild notion, be part of a simulation running in a computer in an overarching reality. But that does not change the fact that within the context of our reality, whether it's a simulation or not, within that context, there is a person named Michael Moore, and they did make a movie called Bowling for Columbine. And both he and I have seen that movie. So then, can we make an objective theory that encompasses all of reality? I don't think so. I think the only thing that could possibly be complex enough to fully describe reality, would be reality itself. But that, of course, is a pointless observation, because we can't encompass all of reality as human beings, so therefore we can never know the fullness of reality. But that doesn't mean that we can't make statements of fact, as I've demonstrated with the Michael Moore thing. So then, what is a theory? How come we can make theories about reality that are so successful? Well, if you think about it, we have evolved as human beings to successfully participate in our environment. As a result, therefore, our brains must have evolved models of reality that are sufficiently accurate to allow us to successfully participate in that environment. Doing that means that therefore we have an innate model of reality that is useful, even if it's not the exact truth. Based on that, we can make further inferences about what we believe reality might be like. And those are theories. And we can then test those theories against reality to see how they hold up. And we find that in many circumstances they hold up quite nicely. Newton came up with a lovely theory on motion, and it was tremendously successful, and we built a lot of technology based on that model of reality. But it wasn't good enough, and we've improved on that. Einstein improved on it. We've got quantum mechanics. And now with quantum mechanics we are starting to see certain problems. For example, the duality between waves and particles. We are looking at nature and we're looking at electrons, for example. Electrons, again, are theoretical constructs that we use to describe what happens in reality. But we would ask questions like, where is the electron at this point in time? Or can electrons move as waves? And the funny thing is that when we ask those questions, we perform the experiments, we see that in a real sense electrons can behave in both ways. We can produce interference patterns that can only be explained by, or that we can currently only explain by seeing the electrons as behaving like waves, but then again we can determine the location of the electron by putting a photographic film behind an apparatus, for example, and seeing where the electrons impact because they cause flashes of light. And again, in that case, they seem to behave very much like particles. So what's going on? What I think is going on is that we phrase our questions, or in other words, we build our theories based on our innate understandings of how the environment works. But that doesn't mean the theories are right. That means the theories are useful. Nature, however, doesn't care about that. It can't care about that. So if you are going to nature with a theoretical model that looks at electrons as if they are particles, and you're going to ask questions of nature based on that model, nature is going to give you answers based on that model. So if you're going to say, what is the location of that electron, you're going to get a location. If you're going to ask, what is the speed of the electron as a particle, you're going to get a speed. But because it's not the correct description, you're going to get this weirdness going on, in that speed and location, for example, cannot be established at the same time. The electrons, you can ask wave-like questions and get wave-like answers, even though you know very well that the electrons can sometimes behave as particles. And then you get things like double-slit experiments, where knowing or thinking you know that the electron is a particle, it goes through one slot or the other, all the same, and still produces this interference pattern that can only be explained at the moment by a wave situation. All of that is because nature answers your questions in the way you ask them. And that is what I think is wrong with our theories. Not that they're not useful, they're immensely useful. Not that they can't allow us to establish facts, they certainly can allow us to establish facts. Even though, all the same, they are not a perfect representation of what reality is really like. And maybe that can never be achieved. Thank you.